Hi Chris, so good to have you on here. Well, I'm so excited to launch this series where we shine the light on our clients and the story of their business. And so let's talk about Otaku and how you launched the business.
Yeah, sure. Otaku is a Japanese word. It sort of loosely translates to nerd or geek. So I started Otaku in 2009, so 15 years ago. Early on, we were a Drupal agency. So I had a small team of devs and we were doing lots of Drupal work.
And Drupal is a type of website
Drupal is a content
platform?
management system or platform, yeah. And so we partnered with lots of larger agencies and did that for a while, over maybe the first 5 or 6 years. And then we sort of transitioned more into consulting. So I think I realized early on that a lot of the larger projects and larger clients that we wanted to work with had gone to market with RFQs or tenders. And I was seeing a lot of those docs and I was thinking, they're not really asking for the right thing. So we brought our experience to the table and sort of started adding value around what should they build and kind of owning the product a little bit more. And so in recent times, the business has more been me consulting with larger clients and big agencies, doing discovery work and helping them kind of define the product and running workshops and writing documents and that kind of stuff. So that's the bread and butter stuff these days.
What motivated you to start your business in the first place? Like, why did you decide like 9 to 5 is not the thing for me?
I think it's a personality thing. And also I was a new dad back then and I could see that coming, family, and I wanted to have a bit of flexibility about doing school drop-offs and pickups and going to events and so on. So I wanted to kind of start my own thing and have some flexibility around that.
And tell me about the first few years in business. Like, what was it like, and what are some of the challenges that you've gone through as you're growing your business?
Interesting for me, actually, I didn't really work in the web industry before starting the business. And so most people who start a business have worked in an agency or worked in a similar role. I had done some other related stuff, but and I'd worked in e-com and online, having an online store. So it kind of made sense to me that I should start something in that space. And I think naively, I thought that I would have a developer build a few websites and then I'd learn how to do it and then I'd kind of take over. But luckily I found a guy who was really good at what he did and we got along well, and he ended up working with me for about 6 years. And he became the tech lead and I just kind of kept my lane and he did the technical stuff. So I was pretty green in the beginning, but just kind of pushed through and kept going.
So what's your journey like in building your team? I know you've got a VA from us, and like, how did you get from working by yourself with that guy that you mentioned, and then to where you are now?
Yeah, I think in the early days we were our bread and butter was implementation, so building websites. But over the years I realised that I could add more value in the consulting side and helping people understand what they were going to build, and so I was less enthusiastic about building things, which meant that my team got smaller and smaller and we built less and less stuff. And then I could, as a solo, I could go and do consulting roles on bigger projects that I wouldn't have had access to as a small business. Having the VA has been super handy because I'm a to-do list kind of person. I've got lists and lists and lists. And I had many lists of things that I just wasn't getting through. And actually I was thinking about it the other day that I had a to-do list called This Week.
Okay.
And it had things on it that had been on there for months, and I just wasn't getting through that stuff. So having an assistant meant that I could kind of get through all that stuff that I wasn't getting through, and it means now that I'm kind of keeping on top of things.
Yeah. So tell me more about your list. Like, I mean, why do you have lists? Like, what are you like in terms of your productivity and your rituals, or as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think that because I'm not like a set 9 to 5 sitting at my desk all the time, I'm off out and about with clients or being a dad or whatever it might be. So when an idea comes to me, I need to record it at the time. So I use an app that is on my phone and on my desktop. Or even late at night, I might have an idea and put a few dot points in and then it's there in the morning. So I think that style suits me. And also it helps me be more organised. I'm not sort of anxious that I've forgotten something all the time. I know if it's in the list, it's there for tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, talking about the work that you do for clients, would you be able to share, I guess, some of the pain points that your clients come to you for, like, and then you know, how do you take them through from where they are to you know, to the outcome that you normally do for them?
Yeah, so most of my ideal client these days is organisations that have their own digital team. So I partner a little bit with agencies, but mostly I'm doing work with larger teams that have internal developers and that sort of stuff. And so mostly my value is helping their skills improve. So I do training workshops and that sort of stuff, and help them upskill and kind of do better at what they're doing. So sometimes teams are not as mature as they could be, or not as far down the digital road. So it helps to have someone like me who's got the expertise to come in and work out where the gaps are and kind of help them upskill and produce better work.
So with the upskilling, you mentioned you do workshops, and what are some of the example services?
Yeah, so these days I'm focusing a lot of time around web accessibility, so gaining a little bit of momentum in that space. A lot of the training I do is around improving people's knowledge around accessibility, so building sites that are more inclusive. And although accessibility has been around as a concept since the beginning of the web, so 20-something years, it's only now sort of gaining more momentum. And so there's opportunity for people that don't know much about it, and I can bring that experience in and kind of train them up. And accessibility, everyone has their own kind of version. Some people are very rigid and you have to follow the rules. My approach is more about the education and the hand-holding and just getting people to produce better quality work. Yeah,
amazing. So you're a kind of a digital guy, tool guy. So what are some of your favourite tools that you use within your own business?
All the tools. Because I've got a range of clients, I kind of have to fit into, so now that we're doing things remotely, it's all about Teams and Zoom and that kind of stuff, but also for many years been using Slack and those kinds of tools as a daily go-to. I'm pretty much embedded in the Google world, so G Suite and all that kind of stuff. And having a creative background, all the Adobe stuff for wireframing and visual stuff. So
yeah, and how do you communicate, or how do you work with your remote team? Like your company is remote, and you've got team members, around the world. And so, what does a typical day look like with your team?
Yeah, so I pretty much live in Slack.
It's like the virtual office.
Particularly for offshore comms, it's I can put things into Slack at whatever hour of the day, and then they might wake up if the time zone's different and sort of check my daily list, and we can check in that way. I've got developers that are remote as well, and it's the same, just talking in Slack and or jumping on a call. And often we share things with a Google Doc or something similar.
And just talking about your remote team, like when was the first time you ever worked with someone from overseas? What did you think about it before you came in, and did it live up to the expectation that you have?
Yeah, so even before having an offshore assistant, I've worked with dev teams from all around the world and developers all around the world in different time zones with different cultures and so on. And so I think our industry is kind of pretty used to that being the norm, even before we had lockdowns and remote working. So I'm kind of used to working with people that have different situations to the one that I'm in, and used to kind of getting along with different people and knowing about the different time zones and that sort of thing. So it wasn't that new to me by the time I sort of took on an assistant.
So what would you say are some of the things that makes it work? I mean, I know you got used to it, but probably before you worked with them, you might not have known some of the maybe tips and hacks to be able to work with a remote team. Can you share anything, especially when people are new to working with someone remote? Like what would make it seem so easy for you?
Yeah. One of the things that I knew going into it was that I would be the bottleneck. And I was worried that I wouldn't have enough work for someone to do if I took them on. And I didn't want to take someone on and then I'd have a big long to-do list, but I hadn't worked out how to give it to them. So I was really mindful in the first few months of making sure that I could communicate that list to them and make sure they had enough stuff to do and be there when they needed, so they weren't kind of waiting for me to be around. And so now we've got a great relationship that works where there's some tasks that are repetitive or happen every month, or every week, and then there's things that we're working on ongoing, but I make sure that I always keep that list kind of topped up so they've got things to do, and I don't need to just kind of be there all the time.
Yeah. What's your usual process like? Do you usually like have a weekly plan? You know, just as an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, like I love to hear your productivity style. Like for me, I love to kind of brain dump on Monday morning and just go, what did I do last week? What am I prioritizing this week? And then kind of really see where the priorities are, and then you know, delegate to the team. Like, what's your process?
Yeah, so we have a weekly Monday kickoff where we just kind of check in and say, we all know what we're doing for this week. We also use Asana, and we have tickets in Asana, so we can prioritize those, and almost like a backlog. I'm pretty strong on process. Yep. So all the processes are documented in Asana. And so if we've done something months ago, we can look back and find the ticket and go, okay, this is how it works, or tweak one of the processes.
That's amazing. Okay, well, looking back at your journey now, you know, you obviously started the business to be around your son and kind of build that lifestyle. Like, what's next? What does you know, the future of Otaku look like?
That's a good question. I have another business now, which I started during the lockdown. So it seems now I'm more of an entrepreneur than you know, once you've got more than one business. Yeah. And sort of having more ideas on the daily. So I think maybe in the future, Otaku will be the 9 to 5, and there'll always be some other, you know, new thing happening that I want to kind of get into or buy into. Or
oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today. And yeah, good luck with the second business. And yeah, thank you so much for being our wonderful client and
thanks for having me.
Being here with today. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.